the process in which a chemical substance turns to another one. As we know that law of conservation of matter, that substance or matter neither created nor destroyed but change from form to another. As in احنا في الchemical reaction بنعمل ايه؟ بنعمل rearrange the reactants to form the product. Chemical reactions differ in the time that they take to occur. Some reactions take very short time, seconds, like fireworks. Some reactions are relatively slower, like the reaction of oil and caustic soda. Caustic soda means sodium hydroxide. To form what? When oil reacts with caustic soda, which is sodium hydroxide, it forms soap. There are some reactions are that very slow and need several months or years to take place, such as the formation of iron rust. Formation, the rusting layer on the iron, can take months or can take years according to the factors that surround the iron. Other reactions may take millions of years. You know, millions of years, like this, which occurs inside the earth to form oil. Formation of petrol. So, what's meant by speed of chemical reaction? What are the factors affecting it? The definition of speed of chemical reaction. Let's identify what speed of chemical reaction means. Nitrogen pentoxide breaks into, there is a nitrogen pentoxide. Pent means 5 oxygen, okay? It breaks up into nitrogen dioxide gas and oxygen gas according to the following equation. So this equation is with us. He can ask you the decomposition of nitrogen pentoxide. Produce نقط and نقط. فتقول له كده produce nitrogen dioxide and oxygen gas. And another question, write the balanced chemical equation of decomposition nitrogen pentoxide. Okay. Oxygen atoms are collected together to form molecules that evolve. Okay. The following graph illustrates the rate of dissociation of nitrogen pentoxide. Dissociation means decomposition with time. The concentration, okay, its measuring unit, mole per liter. Again, the measuring unit of concentration is mole per liter. اتسأل عليها في امتحان قبل كده. The measuring unit of concentration, mole per liter. Represented the vertical axis, the concentration, while time per minute is represented on the horizontal axis. The blue graph represents the change in the concentration of nitrogen pentoxide. As you see, the concentration of nitrogen pentoxide is decreased by passing time. Okay, طيب سؤال, nitrogen pentoxide reactant or product? No, nitrogen pentoxide is a reactant. Okay, so at the beginning of reaction, the concentration of reactants is 100%. And by passing time, concentration of reactants decreased till at the end of the reaction, it will be 0. Okay. The red graphical line represents the change in the concentration of nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide and oxygen are products. Their concentration at the beginning of reaction equal 0. And by passing the time during the reaction, their concentration increase. Okay, their concentration increase. The green graphical line represents the change in the concentration of oxygen. طيب تعرف تقولي سؤال, هل لو احنا عملنا reverse, لو عكسنا nitrogen dioxide oxygen is correct؟ يعني لو انت مثلا اتلخبطت في امتحان جبت لك الجراف ده وقلت لك ايه where is nitrogen pentoxide, where is oxygen, where is nitrogen dioxide, وعكست لي oxygen ونيتروجين dioxide, صح؟ غلط. ليه غلط؟ عشان الكونسنتريشن او النمبر اوف modes of nitrogen dioxide كان higher than الاكسجين. So nitrogen dioxide must be greater than the oxygen. Examine the graph carefully and complete the following table. اوكي هنا ده تيبل بيعرفني اللي حصل في الكونسنتريشن بتاع النيتروجين بنت اوكسايد والنيتروجين دايكسايد and الاكسجين جاز. اتفقنا at the beginning of the reaction the concentration of the reactants اللي هو النيتروجين بنت اوكسايد كان 100%. By passing the time the concentration of the reactants decrease and at the end of the reaction the concentration of the reactants اللي هو النيتروجين بنت اوكسايد كان 0. The inverse, the concentration of the products, nitrogen dioxide and oxygen, is the smallest, almost equal 0. The concentration by passing the time increase, and the concentration at the end of the reaction of the products is almost 100%. Speed of chemical reaction can be defined as the following. We change in what in this chemical reaction? Mass, volume, concentration, temperature. We change in the concentration of reactants and the products by passing the time. So, speed of chemical reaction or rate of chemical reaction is the change in the concentration of reactants and the products at unit time. Again, speed of chemical reaction or rate of chemical reaction, change in the concentration of reactants and the products at unit time. How can we measure the speed of chemical reaction? يعني نعرف منين الرياكشن ده fast ولا slow. We can measure the speed of chemical reaction by measure the rate of disappearance of one of the reactants or the rate of the appearance one of the product. Again, how can we measure the speed of chemical reaction? We can measure the speed of chemical reaction by measure the rate of disappearance one of the product, one of the reactant, or the rate of appearance one of the product. How? Let's see. On adding sodium hydroxide, okay, on adding sodium hydroxide to blue copper sulfate, okay, blue copper sulfate, this blue, okay, it will form colorless sodium sulfate. Balance the equation. Plus and a blue precipitate of copper hydroxide. This a blue precipitate. So we can measure the speed of this reaction by measure the rate of disappearance blue copper sulfate or the rate of appearance the blue precipitate of copper hydroxide. Okay, this how can we measure the speed of chemical reaction? Speed of chemical reaction measured by disappearance rate of blue copper sulfate or the appearance of the blue precipitate of الكبر hydroxide.
تقدر تتابع كل دروسك على تطبيق مدرستنا بلس. مدرستنا، المستقبل يبدأ الآن.